Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Ali and let's talk about finance. In today's video, I'm going to be answering the age-old question, how much money do you need to actually retire? Now, to answer this question, there's a lot of different factors that we have to consider. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about if you're 35 years old and you're looking to save for retirement, how much money do you actually need to save and invest in order to get to retirement at the age of 65? Now, of course, everybody's situation is going to be a little different. And of course, if you guys would like to see more scenarios like this, please let me know down in the comments below and I'd be more than happy to make more videos like this. So let's get started. So with this video today, here's a couple of things that we're going to be doing. One is we're going to assume that you're starting at the age of 35, you have no savings for retirement, and you're looking to retire by the age of 65. We're going to assume that your life expectancy is going to be around 95 years old. Also, you're looking to receive the equivalent of $75,000 a year in retirement every single year. Now, of course, we do have to keep in mind that when retirement is 30 years away, we do have to account for inflation. We're also assuming that inflation is 2.5%, which is right in the middle of the 2 to 3% that Bank of Canada wants inflation to be at in order to sustain a growing economy. If you are somebody that has a defined benefit pension plan, this is not going to pertain to you. Because if you have a defined benefit pension plan, you're gonna get told exactly how much you're gonna receive on a monthly basis. So really what we're gonna be focusing on are for anybody that has a tax-free savings account, a registered retirement savings plan, a defined contribution pension plan, or any locked-in retirement accounts, this will definitely pertain to you. We are not taking into account taxes because everybody's situation is different. So in this case, when we're talking about the $75,000 a year, we're talking about $75,000 before taxes. There are also a couple of things to consider as well. Because this person is going to be retiring at the age of 65, we're automatically assuming that the old age security, they're gonna be 100% eligible for. And for the Canada Pension Plan, we're going to assume that they're gonna receive the average Canada Pension Plan payments on a monthly basis. So in this case, for the Canada Pension Plan, in today's dollars, we're assuming $815 per month, which is the average in 2024. And for the old age security, we're assuming $713.34 per month, as that right now is the maximum for anybody between the ages of 65 and 74. Let's take a look at a couple of numbers. So the first thing we're assuming is this person does not have any money invested. So they're starting with zero. When it comes to how much money you need for retirement, there's two things that we have to keep in mind. If you're receiving Canada Pension Plan and if you're receiving old age security, then that money that you're receiving from those, you don't actually have to save. That money is going to come to you no matter what, as long as you qualify and as long as you actually meet all the criteria in order to receive that. If you wanted to retire and have the equivalent of $75,000 a year in retirement, you are going to need $2,196,484.36 in your retirement savings. This sounds like a lot. However, when you take into account that this money is being invested and that it's growing to that point, you don't necessarily have to contribute that much money to your retirement, then it makes it a little bit easier. If we take into account an 8% rate of return, which for anybody who has a long time horizon should be taking a little bit more risk, and they should be able to get anywhere between 7 to 10% rate of return for their investments. So in this case, we're taking into account an 8% rate of return. If you wanted to contribute on a bi-weekly basis, so with your paycheck, then you would have to contribute $677.02 per paycheck, which in those 30 years means that you would contribute $528,073.33. Now, if you wanted to do monthly contributions, then you would have to contribute $1,473.80 per month, which would come to the equivalent of $530,566.21 contributed. Now, of course, when you take a look at these numbers, we're talking roughly about $530,000 that you have to contribute into your retirement. Now, that sounds like a lot, but it is spread over 30 years. And in that time, that money is going to grow. And in this case, you'll actually end up with $1.7 million more than what you contributed into the plan if you receive an 8% rate of return. Now, of course, some of the things to keep in mind is if you were to contribute on an annual basis, so if you only contribute 30 times in 30 years towards your retirement, you would actually end up having to contribute more money because of the fact that the money that's going in there is not compounding as frequently. So in this case, if you wanted the exact same amount of investments available when you go to retire, you would need to contribute $19,389.32 per year, which means that you would ultimately contribute $581,679.58 in total by the time you go to retire. Now, even after all of this, you're probably wondering, how are you going to do this? This is still a lot of money to contribute towards your retirement, considering that there's a lot of other expenses that you need to take into account. Now, keep in mind, this was to make sure that you had money out of your retirement savings all the way up until the end of the year that you were 95 years old. There's a couple of things. Of course, if your life expectancy is a little bit lower, so let's take a look and see what would happen if your life expectancy was 90 instead of 95. Now, all of a sudden, instead of needing almost 2.2 million to retire, you need $1,977,279.82, which now brings down the amount that you need to contribute. So in this case, if you want to contribute on a bi-weekly basis, it's $609.45. If you wanted to contribute on a monthly basis, it's $1,326.71. And if you wanted to contribute annually, you're looking at $17,484.31. So ultimately, instead of having to contribute about $530,000 if you're contributing bi-weekly or monthly, you're now contributing about $475,000 or so. And instead of contributing about $580,000 if you were to contribute annually, now you're contributing $523,000 over those 30 years. So as you can see, just throwing in a couple different factors, it really does play a difference. Another thing to keep in mind is, say for example, your rate of return was 10% instead of 8%. Now, of course, you would still need about $2 million to retire, assuming life expectancy to age 90. However, in terms of how much you need to contribute, now you're looking at $400.89 bi-weekly, $874.71 monthly, and $12,020.37 annually. Now, of course, this makes a massive difference. Now, as you can see, somebody who takes on a little bit more risk, of course, you don't want to go into an extreme amount of risk where you're picking individual stocks. At the end of the day, if you're going into a portfolio that's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit riskier, long term, if you were to get a 10% rate of return, now all of a sudden, instead of having $530,000 or even $475,000 that you need to contribute, now all of a sudden you just need to contribute about $310,000 to $315,000 if you're contributing bi-weekly or monthly. And then if you're contributing annually, now you're down to $360,000 that you're contributing. That's about $5,000 less a year that you need to contribute over the span of 30 years. That's $150,000 that you don't need to contribute towards your retirement if you were to get a 10% rate of return over that span of 30 years. Now that we've gone through some of the numbers, here are a couple of things to keep in mind. One is the amount that you need for retirement is going to depend on your situation. At the end of the day, if you take a look at your expenses right now, if you do everything correctly and you go into retirement with no debt, then you will most likely need 30% less than what you currently need in order to live. Also, with regards to these numbers, this is assuming that you only want to fund your retirement using your retirement savings. A lot of times, there's a lot of different things that people like to do in retirement. So some people still like to work part-time, and some people like to start their own business to bring in extra income. There are also some people that by the time they go to retire, they might have multiple properties and they may have some income coming in that way. Of course, there are also some people that have other assets where they may be looking to actually sell those assets and use those to help them live through their retirement. If you have all of those different factors, then the number that I just gave of 2.2 million and about $2 million, that's not actually going to pertain to you. Now think about this. Here in Toronto, the average home is about $1 million. It's a little bit over $1 million. Now, say for example, you have the home of $1 million and you're going into retirement and you're debt free. By the time retirement comes around, that $1 million home is going to be worth more. Now, you're gonna get to a point though, when you go to retire, if you don't wanna live in that home anymore, or if you don't wanna maintain that home anymore, you can always take that home, sell it, and then of course, take the amount of money that you have out of that home and go either downsize and buy a smaller place, or you can always take that money and rent. At the end of the day, you have a lot of flexibility if you're in this situation. And in that case, you can open up hundreds of thousands of dollars of money that's available, which you can use towards your retirement and help fund your retirement. All of these different things are things to consider. And of course, the easiest way for you to really understand what it is that you should do is to figure out what your retirement lifestyle is going to look like. Once you understand what your retirement lifestyle is going to look like, then it will become a little bit easier to figure out how much you actually need to retire. So there you have it, guys. That is how much you need to retire if you're 35 years old and you're looking to retire by the age of 65 with an equivalent of $75,000 a year of income. Please take everything that I say with a grain of salt because every single situation is going to be a little bit different. If you like this video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Also, if you learned something from this video, please share it with your friends and family. At the end of the day, if you learned something from this, I'm sure they will too. Also, if there's any particular topics that you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave those down in the comments below and I'd be more than happy to make those videos in the future. As always, guys, stay safe, take care, and we'll see you guys in the next one.